Lin Wanwan, if you don't marry Battalion Commander Shen, I'll kill myself right in front of you. On the hospital bed, my adoptive mother Shwet Suehua held a kitchen knife against her own neck, her eyes fierce and determined. I looked at this woman who was willing to push me into a living hell just for 50,000 yuan in bride price, and my heart felt as cold as ashes. In my previous life, I listened to her and married Shen Chongfeng, who had become a vegetable after a car accident. I took care of him for 3 years, and the first thing he said when he woke up was, "You ugly monster, who told you to touch me?" Then came endless humiliation and torment until I died a miserable death in that cold military compound. In this life, I will never make the same mistake again. 1 June 1990. The First People's Hospital of the provincial capital. I tightly clutched my college entrance exam score report, staring at the bright red score of 695, feeling a mix of emotions. The first thing to do after being reborn is to escape the tragic fate of the previous life. Wanwan, come in quickly, Aunt Shue is waiting for you. Cousin Shue Jianhua poked his head out of the hospital room, wearing an ingratiating smile. I took a deep breath and pushed the door open. In the hospital room, Shue Suehua was half leaning against the headboard, her face sallow, looking quite ill, but I knew she was just pretending. In my previous life, she used this trick to deceive me into marrying Shen Changfeng, only to be full of energy and go play mahjong on the wedding day. Wanwan, you've finally come, Shue Suehua said as soon as she saw me, immediately putting on a loving motherly expression. Auntie's illness, I'm afraid, is beyond cure. Before I die, Auntie has one wish. You speak. I watched her performance with a blank expression. That officer from the Shen family, Shen Changfeng, you know him, right? He's currently lying in the military hospital, and the doctors say he might never wake up, Shue Suehua said, her eyes flickering. His family sent someone to propose marriage, offering 50,000 yuan as a bride price and promising to give you 500 yuan in living expenses every month. 50,000 yuan, in 1990, that was indeed a huge sum of money. No wonder Shue Suehua was tempted. Aunt knows this is unfair to you, but our family is really in a difficult situation. Your cousin is getting married, your younger cousin needs to go to school. They're all waiting for this money. As she spoke, Shue Suehua began to cry. Aunt raised you since you were little, and now I'm begging you, consider it repaying Aunt for raising you. Alright, Shue Jianhua also chimed in from the side. Wanqing. The Shen family comes from a military background with a very high social status. Marrying into their family would make you a military spouse. How honorable. Moreover, with Shen Changfeng in his current condition, you would be the one in charge once you're there, giving you so much freedom. That's right, Shue Suehua quickly added. Once he wakes up, he might even be grateful to you. Besides, if he really doesn't wake up, you're still young. You can always remarry later. Listening to these high-sounding words, I sneered inwardly. In my past life, I was deceived by such words, believing that marrying a vegetative patient would indeed bring more freedom. After Shen Changfeng woke up, not only was he not grateful to me, but he also humiliated me in various ways because of my status as an adopted daughter. What's even more terrifying is that he was never actually in a vegetative state. He was fully conscious. During those 3 years, he had been pretending to be unconscious, secretly observing my every move, every detail, and every word I said while taking care of him. He heard it all clearly. Then, after waking up, used these to torment me. So, what do you think, Wanwan? Will you consider it? Shue Suehua urged. I lifted my head and said calmly, I don't agree. The ward instantly fell silent. Shue Suehua was stunned for a moment, then her expression turned ugly. What did you say? I said, I don't agree to this marriage, I repeated. Shue Jianhua grew anxious. Wanwan, have you gone mad? This is an officer, a match that many people beg for but can't get, a good match. I sneered, making me take care of a vegetable. What kind of good match is that? Shue Suehua's face completely darkened. Lin Wanwan, don't forget who raised you. When your parents died, if I hadn't taken you in, you would have starved to death on the streets. Now that your aunt is asking you for a favor, is this how you treat me? Do you have no conscience at all? As she spoke, her voice grew louder and louder. drawing people from the neighboring hospital rooms to poke their heads in and watch the commotion. I sneered inwardly. In my previous life, I was held hostage by this so-called debt of upbringing, but in this life, I have already seen her true nature. Aunt Xue, you are right, I should indeed repay you for your upbringing. Upon hearing this, Xue Tsuehua's expression softened a bit. That's more like it. Wanwan, you've been sensible since you were young, so… I interrupted her. I have decided to repay you in another way. I took the college entrance exam score report out of my bag and handed it to her. I scored 695 points. Ranking third in the province, both Tsinghua and Peking University will accept me, and I'll receive a substantial scholarship. 4 years from now, when I graduate, I'll definitely find a good job. At that time, I'll give you 200 yuan a month for living expenses until you grow old. Isn't this more practical than marrying a vegetative person, don't you think? Xue Tsuehua stared at the score report, her eyes nearly popping out of her head. 695 points, third in the entire province. That's way more valuable than a 50,000 yuan bride price. But then she thought, who knows what will happen 4 years from now? The 50,000 yuan in front of her is more practical. No, Xue Tsuehua threw the report card on the ground. The marriage arrangement with the Shun family is already settled. You must go. I bent down to pick up the report card, gently brushed off the dust on it, feeling unusually calm. What if I insist on not going? A flash of malice crossed Xue Tsuehua's eyes. Then don't blame me for being impolite. She suddenly pulled out a kitchen knife from under the pillow and pressed it against her own neck. Lin Wanwan, if you don't marry Battalion Commander Shen, I'll kill myself right in front of you. Xue Jianhua cooperated by shouting from the side, Mom, don't do anything rash. Then he turned to me and said, Wanwan, hurry up and agree. Do you want to drive my mom to her death? The other patients and their families in the ward were stunned by the scene and urged me, Young lady, a human life is at stake, you should just agree to it. That's right, the kindness of a foster mother is as weighty as a mountain. How can you be so heartless? The Shun family are military personnel. You won't be treated poorly if you marry into their family. Faced with everyone's accusations, I felt completely unmoved. In my previous life, it was just like this. Xue Tsuehua used death to threaten me, and everyone around stood by her side, accusing me of being unfilial. In the end, I compromised, only to be met with 3 years of hellish life. In this life, I will never fall for the same trick again. Aunt Xue, if you really want to die, I won't stop you, I said calmly, but you need to think it through. If you die, who will take care of Xue Jianhua and Xue Xiaoye? One of them is about to get married. The other needs to go to school. Both require money. If you die, what will happen to them? Xue Tsuehua's hand trembled, and the kitchen knife nearly fell to the ground. She hadn't expected me to say that. You ungrateful wretch. She trembled with rage. I've raised you all these years for nothing. You haven't raised me for nothing. I took a thick envelope from my bag and placed it on her bedside table. This contains 2,000 yuan. Consider it my living expenses for the past 18 years. From now on, we're even. Xue Tsuehua stared blankly at the envelope, unable to speak for a long time. 2,000 yuan was no small amount in 1990. An average worker only earned a few dozen yuan per month, so getting 2,000 at once was enough for her to live on for several years. But compared to the 50,000 yuan bride price, it was still far from enough. You think you can brush me off with 2,000 yuan? No way, Xue Tsuehua said fiercely. You must agree to marry Shen Changfeng today. Or I'll go to your school and make a scene, letting everyone know you're an ungrateful wretch. Hearing this, I laughed. Aunt Xue, are you threatening me? Yes, I am threatening you. Xue Tsuehua decided to throw caution to the wind. Do you think you're something special just because you got good grades? Let me tell you. If I go to the school and make a scene, you'll be finished. What university would dare accept an ungrateful student? By then, forget about Tsinghua or Peking University. You won't even get into an ordinary college. Xue Jianhua also chimed in with a threat. Exactly, Wanwan, don't refuse a toast only to be forced to drink a forfeit. If my mom really goes to your school and makes a scene, your future will be ruined. The patients and their families around us started pointing fingers at me. How can this girl be so heartless? Her adoptive mother is this sick, and she still won't help. Exactly. Young people these days really have no conscience. The Shun family taking a liking to her is her good fortune, and she still has the nerve to be picky. Faced with these accusations, I remained very calm, because I knew that Shwet Suehua simply didn't dare to cause a scene at the school. If she really went, the school would investigate and find out that she isn't actually sick at all. By then, not only would she fail to get the 50,000 yuan bride price, but she would also become a laughingstock. Aunt Shwe. If you want to cause a scene at the school, go ahead. I stood up, preparing to leave, but let me remind you, the school isn't a place where just anyone can go and cause trouble. If you really go, you'll have to face the consequences yourself. With that, I turned and walked away. From behind me came Shwet Suehua's furious roar. Lin Wanwan, stop right there, you ungrateful wretch. But I walked away without looking back. Stepping out of the hospital, I took a deep breath of fresh air. Finally, I broke free from the nightmare of my previous life, but I knew this was only the first step. Shwet Suehua won't give up easily. She will definitely think of other ways, but I'm no longer afraid. In this lifetime, I will take control of my own destiny, too. After leaving the hospital, I went directly to the largest bookstore in the city. Since I've been reborn back to 1990, I will use the memories of the next 20+ years to plan a better future for myself. First, I need to buy some books on computers and English. In the future information age, these two skills are the most important. Classmate, what books would you like to buy? The bookstore owner was a middle-aged man wearing glasses, who looked very kind. I want to buy some computer programming books. And also English dictionaries. The shopkeeper was taken aback. Young student, are you sure? These books are not cheap, and they're not easy to learn either. It's okay, I'm sure. I spent a long time picking out books in the store, and in the end, I bought over 10 books, spending nearly $200. This almost spent all the money I had, but I think it was totally worth it. Knowledge is wealth. This saying never goes out of style in any era. As I walked out of the bookstore and was about to head back to school, I suddenly heard someone calling me from behind. Wanwan. I turned around and saw it was my classmate Jong Minute. Wanwan, what are you doing here? Jong Minute ran over, panting heavily, and said, I've been looking for you for a long time. Looking for me? What's the matter? Something big has happened. Jong Minute lowered her voice and said, someone went to the school to cause trouble, saying you're ungrateful and don't respect your adoptive mother. My heart sank. It seems Shwet Suehua really went to the school. Are the troublemakers still there? I asked. Yes, they're right at the school gate. A lot of people are watching. And the commotion is quite intense, Jong Minute said worriedly. Wanwan, what exactly is going on? I briefly explained the situation to Jong Minute. After hearing this, Jong Minute was filled with righteous indignation. This is just too much. Raising you was her responsibility. So why should you have to marry a vegetative person, and a 50,000 yuan bride price? Frankly, it's like selling your daughter. Although Jong Minute was furious, I knew that most people wouldn't see it that way, in this day and age. The notion that the debt of gratitude for being raised is as vast as the sky is still deeply ingrained. Many people would take Shwet Suehua's side. Let's go back to school and have a look, I said. When we returned to the school gate, we saw a large crowd gathered there from a distance. In the middle of the crowd, Shwet Suehua was sitting on the ground, wailing and crying bitterly. Kind-hearted people, please judge for yourselves. I worked so hard to raise her for 18 years. And now that she's been admitted to a good university, she wants nothing to do with me, her adoptive mother. The Shun family has taken a liking to her and is willing to offer a bride price of 50,000 yuan. This is such a great opportunity, but she just won't agree to it. I'm already this sick. And when I begged her for help, do you know what she said? She told me to go die. This is the ungrateful wretch I raised for 18 years. The people around me heard this and started pointing at me. How can this girl be like this? The kindness of her adoptive mother is greater than the heavens. Exactly. The Shun family are military personnel. What an honor it would be to marry into that family. Young people these days are just selfish. They don't understand gratitude at all. I stood on the outskirts of the crowd. Quietly listening to these accusations, in my previous life, I would panic upon hearing these words and eventually compromise by agreeing to that marriage. But in this life, my heart is as calm as still water. Wonwan, what will you do? Jong Minute asked with concern. Wait, I said calmly. Wait for what? Wait for her to finish her act. Sure enough, after Shwet Suehua cried and made a scene for a while, seeing that more and more people were gathering around, she began to escalate. All you kind-hearted people, I know Wonwan has been clever since childhood and now has achieved high scores, but one must not forget their roots. I've heard that ungrateful people cannot attend university. With such character, how can they become pillars of the nation? I beg all of you to bear witness for me. We absolutely cannot let such an ungrateful person attend university. Hearing this, the onlookers began to murmur among themselves, that's right. People with poor moral character shouldn't go to college. She should be reported. Such people are just bad apples. Seeing the crowd's emotions being stirred up, Shwet Suehua's face flashed a smug smile. She thought this would force me to compromise. But she was wrong. I slowly walked toward the crowd and said loudly, Uncles and aunties, please quiet down and listen to me for a moment. The crowd gradually quieted down, and everyone looked at me. When Shwet Suehua saw me appear, she immediately started crying and making a scene again. Wonwan, you've finally come. Quickly agree to marry into the Shen family. I'm begging you. I ignored her and instead said to the onlookers, everyone, my name is Lin Wonwan, and I am 18 years old. My parents passed away in a car accident when I was 3, and it was Shwet Suehua who adopted me. Over the past 15 years, I have indeed lived in her home. However, the real reason she adopted me is something she probably hasn't told you. Shwet Suehua's face changed. What nonsense are you talking about? I continued. When my parents passed away, they left behind 20,000 yuan in compensation and a house. Shwet Suehua adopted me just for these assets. Over the past 15 years, the rent from that house, along with the compensation my parents left, has been more than enough to cover my living expenses and tuition. In other words, she didn't actually raise me. She used my parents' money to support me. Hearing this, the onlookers began to whisper among themselves, there's such a thing. If that's really the case, then the nature of it is completely different. Using someone else's parents' money to raise a child and then demanding repayment, that really doesn't make sense. Seeing the situation turning against her, Shwet Suehua hurriedly defended herself. You're talking nonsense. What pension? What house? None of that ever happened. Is that so? I took a document out of my bag. This is a copy of my parents' property deed, along with bank deposit certificates. Everyone, take a look. These documents were the ones I had copied at the relevant departments yesterday. In my previous life, I was too foolish and naive, completely unaware that my parents had left these for me. Shwet Suehua had kept it from me all along, and I didn't know until the day I died. After being reborn in this life, the first thing I did was to check my parents' inheritance. I found out that Shwet Suehua had indeed been using my parents' money to raise me all these years. Moreover, she never gave me a single penny from the rental income of that house. The onlookers passed around these documents, and their expressions changed. Oh my God, this woman is just too much. Using someone else's parents' money to raise a child, and still demanding repayment. This isn't a foster mother. This is a vampire. Shwet Suehua, seeing that her scheme had been exposed, flew into a rage. Even so, I've worked hard for 15 years. Which aspect of daily life, eating, drinking, sleeping, or using the bathroom, didn't require my attention? These things come with costs too. Now the Shun family has taken a liking to her and is willing to offer a 50,000 yuan bride price. What reason does she have to refuse? She thinks she can just kick me aside now that she's successful. Not a chance. I sneered coldly. Shwet Suehua, you want a return on your investment, right? Fine, I'll give it to you. I took another envelope out of my bag. Inside is 3,000 yuan. According to the market rate, it's more than enough to cover your service fees for the past 15 years. From now on, we're even. Don't bother me again. 3,000 yuan was indeed a considerable amount of money in 1990. The onlookers all felt that I had been very benevolent. This girl is really good. She repays kindness with kindness. Yes, $3,000 is not a small amount. That woman should be content. But Shwet Suehua was clearly not satisfied. 3,000 yuan. Are you trying to treat me like a beggar? I want 50,000. You must marry Shin Changfeng, otherwise, I'll sue you. I'll report you. Hearing this, the onlooker's impression of Shwet Suehua completely changed. This woman is too greedy. 50,000. Does she think her daughter is made of gold? Isn't this just selling her daughter? Seeing the change in everyone's attitude, I knew the time was ripe. Uncles and aunts. I have a question for all of you, I said loudly, to everyone present. If someone forced you to marry your daughter to a vegetative person just for 50,000 yuan, would you be willing? No, someone shouted in response. Then if someone threatened you, saying they would cause trouble at the school and ruin your daughter's future if you didn't agree, what would you do? Of course we can't agree to that. Such people are utterly shameless. Yes, we support this girl. Seeing public opinion completely swing to my side, Shwet Suehua finally panicked. She never expected that I could turn the tables. You've all been deceived by her. Shwet Suehua still wanted to argue. She's an ungrateful wretch, a thankless little bitch. But no one was listening to her anymore. Instead, some people began to criticize her. How dare you speak like that? Woman, children have the right to make their own choices. Hurry up and leave, don't embarrass yourself here any longer. Seeing that the situation was turning against her, Shwet Suehua had no choice but to slink away in disgrace. Before leaving, she glared at me fiercely. Lin Wanwan, this isn't over. Watching her retreating figure, a sense of satisfaction welled up in my heart. I had finally avenged part of the grudge from my previous life, but I knew this was only the beginning. Shwet Suehua won't give up easily. She will definitely think of other ways. However, I am no longer afraid. When soldiers approach, we use generals to block them. When floods come, we use earth to contain them. In this life, I will live for myself. 3. After dealing with Shwet Suehua's matter, I returned to school. The senior year courses have ended, and all the students are waiting to fill out their college applications. Wanwan. As soon as I entered the classroom, my deskmate Liu Xiaowen excitedly ran over. I heard you scored 695, third in the entire province. I nodded and sat down, flipping through the books I had just bought. Oh my god, you're amazing. Liu Xiaowen was extremely excited. Both Tsinghua and Peking University will be fighting over you. Which university are you planning to apply to, and what major? I closed the book and thought about it carefully. In my previous life, I applied to a normal college because I wanted to become a teacher. But after marrying Shin Changfeng, I never had the chance to attend university. In this life, I want to choose a more promising major. I want to apply for the computer science program at Peking University. I said, computer science. Liu Xiaowen paused for a moment. How is this major? Is it easy to find a job? In 1990, computer science was still a very new major, and many people didn't understand it, but I knew how important this major would be in the future. It should be pretty good. I didn't explain too much. When are you planning to go to Beijing? Liu Xiaowen asked. I heard Peking University's campus is especially beautiful. I'll wait until the admission letter arrives. Actually, I have another plan in mind. During these months waiting for university to start, I want to take the opportunity to earn some money, because I know that in the coming years, there will be some great investment opportunities, such as stocks, such as real estate. But right now, I have too little money on hand and need to accumulate some startup funds first. By the way, Wanwan, Liu Xiaowen suddenly remembered something. A male classmate came looking for you earlier. Male classmate? I asked in confusion. Who is it? I don't know him. He doesn't seem to be from our school. He said his surname is Shun and asked you to go to the military hospital when you have time. Surname Shun. I was startled. Could it be someone from the Shun family? What else did he say? I asked nervously. Nothing else. Just said you should go to the hospital. Liu Xiaowen looked at me strangely. Wanwan, why do you look so pale? Do you know him? I forced a smile. It's nothing. Probably a misunderstanding. But inside, a huge wave was stirring. How did the Shen family find their way to the school? Did Shwet Suehua go to them? Or has Shen Changfeng already woken up? No, If Shen Changfeng had woken up, they wouldn't need to find a substitute bride. So, is it someone else from the Shen family? I recall the members of the Shen family I met in my previous life. Shen Changfeng's father, Shen Guoqiang, was a division commander, and his mother, Li Xiuyun, was the head nurse at a military hospital. There was also a younger brother, Shen Changfeng, who was 3 years younger than Shen Changfeng, in my previous life. When I married into the family, Shen Changfeng was still studying at the military academy. But this person left a very bad impression on me. The way he looked at me was always strange. As if he were looking at some kind of prey. Moreover, he was very good at reading people. In front of his parents, he treated me quite well. But behind their backs, he often said very harsh things. Could it be that he came looking for me? At this thought, I grew even more uneasy. Wanwan, are you really okay? Liu Xiaowen asked with concern. Do you want me to go with you to the hospital? No need, I shook my head. I can go by myself. Although I was nervous, I still decided to go to the military hospital. This matter had to be resolved eventually. There was no avoiding it. Moreover, I wanted to see what Shen Changfeng's situation was like in this lifetime. In the afternoon, I went to the military hospital alone. This place is different from a regular hospital. There are people in military uniforms everywhere. The security at the entrance is very strict. You have to register your identity to get in. Comrade, who are you looking for? The guard asked me. I'm looking for Shen Changfeng, I answered truthfully. The guard glanced at the register. Shen Changfeng is in the special care unit, room 309 on the 3rd floor. What is your relationship to him? I hesitated. A friend. The guard looked me up and down. There's someone in room 309 right now. You can go up. I followed the directions and arrived on the 3rd floor. The corridor was very quiet, with only the occasional nurse passing by. Arriving at the door of room 309, I took a deep breath and knocked. Come in. A young man's voice came from inside. I pushed the door open and saw 2 people in the hospital room. Lying on the sickbed was a man with a pale complexion and closed eyes. It was Shen Changfeng. Sitting by the bedside was a young officer who bore some resemblance to Shen Changfeng, though he appeared younger. It must be Shen Changfeng. You must be Lin Wanwan. Shen Changfeng stood up, looking me over. Yes, I nodded. Have a seat. Shen Changfeng pointed to the chair beside him. I didn't sit down. Instead, I remained standing where I was, watching him warily. No need to be nervous. I asked you here to talk about my brother, Shen Changfeng said. What is there to talk about? I said coldly. I have already rejected that marriage proposal. Shen Changfeng smiled. I heard from Shui Suihua. She said you refused to marry because my brother is a vegetable. Yes, I admitted straightforwardly. What if my brother wakes up? Shen Changfeng suddenly asked. My heart skipped a beat. What do you mean? What I mean is... Shen Changfeng walked to the bedside and looked at Shen Changfeng. If my brother were to wake up, would you be willing to marry him? Can he wake up? I asked in return. The doctor says it's possible. Shen Changfeng turned to look at me. His various indicators have been improving recently, and the doctors are optimistic. Hearing this, my internal alarm bells went off. In my previous life, Shen Changfeng woke up 3 months after we got married. Why is it happening earlier now? Or is it that he actually woke up a long time ago and was just pretending to be unconscious? Congratulations to you both, I said calmly. But what does that have to do with me? Of course it has something to do with you. Shen Changfeng's eyes flickered with a strange light. After my brother wakes up, he'll need someone to help him recover, and you are the most suitable candidate. Why? I asked. Because you're young, beautiful, and educated. Shen Changfeng looked at me without reservation. My brother deserves the best girl, and you two are already engaged. It's perfectly legitimate. Engaged? What engagement? I never agreed to it at all. Comrade Shen, I think you've misunderstood. I said seriously, I never agreed to any marriage arrangement. Is that so? Shen Changfeng took a document out of his pocket. Then what is this? I took the document and looked at it, and immediately felt my blood boil. This is actually a marriage contract. Not only does it have my name on it, but it also has my fingerprint. But I have never signed anything like this. This is fake, I said angrily. I have never signed this. Really or not, the law will decide. Shen Changfeng said unhurriedly. In any case, this marriage contract is valid. You can choose to fulfill it, or you can choose to breach it. But if you breach it, you will need to bear the legal consequences. I gripped the document tightly, my hands trembling. Shwet Suehua. It must have been Shwet Suehua who did it. She must have taken my fingerprint when I wasn't paying attention. This document is forged. I can sue in court, I said through gritted teeth. Then go ahead and sue. Shen Changfeng looked indifferent, but before the court makes a ruling, this marriage contract is still valid. Moreover, he changed his tone. Even if the court rules this marriage contract invalid, do you think that's the end of it? What do you mean? I asked warily. Our Shen family has some connections in this area, Shen Changfeng said coldly. If you insist on breaking the contract, we won't make things easy for you either. You got into Peking University, right? That's great. But 4 years of college is a long time, and anything can happen. This is a threat, a blatant threat. I was shaking with anger, but there was nothing I could do. In 1990, military families like the Shen family indeed held significant influence. If they truly intended to target me, an 18-year-old girl like me would have no way to fight back. What do you want? I asked, suppressing my anger. Simple, Shen Changfeng said as he sat back in his chair. Once my brother wakes up, the two of you will get married. Before this, you can go to college normally, and we won't interfere. But after graduation, you must come back and fulfill your duties as a wife. Hearing this arrangement, I could hardly believe my ears. What do they take me for? A disposable item? What if I disagree? I asked. Then go ahead and try. Shen Changfeng stood up and walked over to me. But I advise you to think carefully. My brother is a hero. He was injured for the country. Marrying him is an honor, not a grievance. Moreover, our Shen family will not treat you unfairly, and your family will also receive our care. At this point, his voice turned cold. Of course, if you don't know what's good for you, then don't blame us for being impolite. I looked at this hypocritical man before me, and a surge of immense anger welled up in my heart. But reason tells me now is not the time to be impulsive. I need time to figure out a solution. I need to think about it, I said. Of course, Shen Changfeng smiled. But don't think about it for too long. In a few days, we will formally come to propose marriage. By then, you'd better have your answer ready. I turned to leave, but Shen Changfeng called out to me again. Oh, I forgot to tell you something. I turned back to look at him. My brother isn't completely unconscious. He's sometimes aware. Shen Changfeng pointed at Shen Changfeng on the bed. He heard our conversation just now. Hearing this, my heart was greatly shaken. I looked at Shen Changfeng on the hospital bed. His eyes were still tightly shut, showing no signs of anything unusual. But I knew that Shen Changfeng was not lying. Shen Changfeng was indeed pretending to be unconscious, just like in the previous life. Although he can't move right now, his mind is very clear. Shen Changfeng continued. He is very satisfied with you. So, you'd better not let him down. I took a deep look at Shen Changfeng lying on the bed, then turned and walked away without looking back. Leaving the hospital, my mood was at its absolute worst. In this life, I thought I could escape the tragic fate of my previous one. I never expected the Shen family to use such despicable means to threaten me, but I will not compromise. Since I've been reborn, I'm going to live for myself, no matter the cost. I must break free from this nightmarish engagement. For, after returning to school, I immediately went to find my homeroom teacher, Ms. Wang. Ms. Wang is a middle-aged woman in her 50s who cares deeply about her students. Wanwan, what's wrong? You don't look well, Teacher Wang asked with concern. I told her what had happened today, including the forged marriage contract. After hearing this, Teacher Wang was furious. This is absolutely lawless. How dare they forge legal documents? Teacher, what should I do? I asked. Teacher Wang thought for a moment. All right then, I'll contact my friend. He's a lawyer who specializes in these kinds of cases. First, let him take a look at that marriage contract to determine its authenticity, then we can decide what to do next. With the teacher's support, I felt a bit more at ease. The next day, Teacher Wang took me to meet his lawyer friend. The lawyer's surname was Chen, in his 40s, and he looked very professional. Let me take a look at that marriage contract, Lawyer Chen said. I handed the document to him. and he studied it carefully for over 10 minutes. This document shows obvious signs of forgery, Lawyer Chen said. The fingerprint was added later, and the handwriting is not from the same person. Can we file a lawsuit? I asked urgently. We can, but, Lawyer Chen hesitated. Are you sure you want to sue? Why can't we file a lawsuit? Teacher Wang asked. The Shun family has significant influence locally, and Shen Changfeng is a hero wounded in service to the country, Lawyer Chen explained. If this goes to court, public opinion may not be on our side. Moreover, even if we win the lawsuit, the Shun family has 100 ways to retaliate. In the end, it's this girl who will suffer. Hearing this, both Teacher Wang and I fell silent. Indeed, in this era, military families hold a very high status. If I were to report them, I would likely be accused of not knowing what's good for me. What should we do then? Should we just let it go? Teacher Wang was unwilling to accept this. There's another way, Lawyer Chen said. Since they claim there's a marriage contract, then let's proceed according to the terms of the contract. What are the terms written in the marriage contract? I asked. Lawyer Chen looked at the document again. It states that the woman agrees to marry the man, but there are several conditions. First, the man must fully recover and be able to live a normal life. Second, the woman has the right to education, and the man must not prevent it. Third, if the man engages in improper conduct, the woman has the right to terminate the engagement. I was taken aback for a moment. Are these conditions really there? They are indeed. Look, Lawyer Chen pointed to the fine print on the document for me to see. I took a closer look, and sure enough, those clauses were there. It's just that the text was very small. So I hadn't noticed it before. It seems that although Shwet Suehua is greedy, she also knows to leave herself a way out. Are these conditions favorable for us? I asked. Very favorable. Lawyer Chen nodded. The first condition alone is sufficient. Shen Changfeng is currently in a vegetative state, which completely fails to meet the requirement of full recovery, so strictly speaking, this marriage contract is currently invalid. Hearing this, my heart leaped with joy. It turns out this marriage contract is not only forged, but its content is also in my favor. Does that mean I can reject them now? I asked. Theoretically, yes, Lawyer Chen said, but you still need to be careful in practice. It's better to have them voluntarily give it up, rather than you unilaterally breaking the contract. How can we make them give up voluntarily? Teacher Wang asked. That requires some strategy. Lawyer Chen smiled mysteriously. After leaving the law firm, I had a plan in mind. Since Shen Changfeng is pretending to be in a coma, I'll play along with his scheme. I want him to know that I'm not someone to be bullied. That evening, I went to the military hospital again. This time, I directly bought a bouquet of flowers and walked in confidently. I'm here to see my fiancé, I said to the nurse. The nurse looked at me, then at the flowers, and nodded to let me in. Ward 309 was very quiet. Shen Changfeng was still the same, lying motionless in bed, but I knew he could hear. Brother Changfeng, I've come to see you, I said softly, placing the flowers on the bedside table. Then I sat by the bedside and took his hand. His hand was cold, but I could feel a very slight tremor. Sure enough, he was conscious. The doctor said you might wake up soon. I'm really happy, I continued. I have received the admission letter from Peking University for the computer science program. When you wake up, I will come back to accompany you. We can read books together and take walks together. I can cook, do laundry, and will definitely take good care of you. When I said these words, there was no ripple of emotion in my heart, but I know Shen Changfeng will be very happy to hear this. In the previous life, after he woke up, he loved hearing me say these words the most. He thought I truly loved him and was willing to sacrifice everything for him. But in this life, I will make him understand what despair means. However, I changed the subject. There's something I must tell you. I leaned close to his ear and lowered my voice. Actually, I don't like you at all. Shen Changfeng's hand visibly trembled. I agreed to this marriage entirely because I was threatened. I continued, you think you're a hero. In my eyes, you're just a worthless piece of trash, a worthless piece of trash who can't even protect yourself. What right do you have to demand others' love? Shen Changfeng's breathing noticeably quickened, but he was still pretending to be unconscious. Not daring to react too much, And, do you think pretending to be unconscious is clever? I sneered. I knew you were faking it all along. In the previous life, you deceived me for 3 years. In this life, I will never be fooled again. Hearing the words previous life, Shen Changfeng's body visibly stiffened. Although he couldn't possibly understand what I meant, he was clearly startled by this strange statement. Do you want to know what happened in your previous life? I whispered into his ear. Then I'll tell you, in your previous life, I really married you. I took care of you for 3 years, but after you woke up, not only did you not thank me, you humiliated and tormented me in every possible way. In the end, I died in your Shen family's courtyard, and it was a miserable death. Shen Changfeng's breathing grew increasingly rapid, and beads of sweat even appeared on his forehead. But God gave me a second chance, I said viciously, in this life. I will make your Shen family pay the price. Do you think threatening me will work? You're wrong. I would rather let the fish die and the net break than be manipulated by you any longer. After saying these words, I stood up and straightened my clothes. All right, that's all for today, I resumed my gentle voice. Brother Changfeng, you need to wake up soon. I will come to see you every day. Then I turned and left the hospital room. As I reached the door, I deliberately glanced back. A tear had actually seeped from the corner of Shen Changfeng's eye. I sneered coldly and walked away without looking back, trying to scare me. It's still too early. This is just the beginning. 5. After returning from the hospital, I began to implement my plan. The first step was to figure out the true situation of the Shen family. I found Li Hua, who had the best family background among my high school classmates. Li Hua's father is a cadre in the municipal government and is very familiar with all kinds of local situations. Brother Hua, I want to inquire about someone, I said. Who is it? Li Hua asked curiously. Shen Changfeng, the one from the military hospital. Li Hua thought for a moment. Oh, you mean that officer from the car accident? Yes, that's him. I've heard my dad talk about this person. Li Hua lowered his voice and said, his situation is very complicated. How is it complicated? I asked eagerly. It wasn't an accident that he got into a car crash. Someone intentionally hit him, Li Hua said, and the person who hit him still hasn't been caught. This news shocked me greatly. In my previous life, I had no idea about these inside details. Why would someone intentionally hit him? I asked. I'm not sure about that. Li Hua shook his head. It could be a revenge killing, or it could be for other reasons. In any case, this person has quite a few enemies. Quite a few enemies. That's an interesting piece of information, Brother Hua. What else do you know? I asked. I also heard that the Shen family isn't very harmonious internally. Li Hua continued. Shen Changfeng and his younger brother Shen Changfeng have a very poor relationship. Why, it seems to be because of inheritance issues. Their grandfather left behind a considerable amount of property, and the two brothers have been at odds over the inheritance rights. Moreover, Shen Changfeng has always felt that Shen Changfeng doesn't deserve the title of hero. This information gave me a new understanding of the Shen family, so they are not a monolithic block. Where there are conflicts, there are opportunities to exploit. Brother Hua, can you help me find out more about Shen Changfeng? I asked. I can, but why are you asking about these things? Li Hua asked suspiciously. I briefly explained my situation. After hearing it, Li Hua became very angry. How outrageous. Using such methods to force a marriage. Don't worry, I'll definitely help you get to the bottom of this. With Li Hua's help, I quickly gathered more information. It turns out that Shen Changfeng not only had a poor relationship with his brother, but also had character issues. He had a record of misconduct during his military academy days, having been disciplined for fighting. Moreover, he had a bad habit of gambling and had accumulated a lot of debt. Most importantly, his attitude toward women was problematic, as he had harassed several female classmates. After gathering this information, I decided to take the initiative. The next day, I went back to the military hospital. This time I'm not here to see Shen Changfeng, but to find Shen Changfeng. Is Comrade Shen here? I asked the nurse. Yes, in the lounge. The nurse pointed to the end of the corridor. I walked to the lounge door and knocked. Come in. Pushing the door open and entering, Shen Changfeng was reading the newspaper. Seeing me, he was somewhat surprised. Lin Wanwan, what brings you here? I came to talk with you, I said. What about? Shen Changfeng put down the newspaper and looked at me with great interest. About that marriage contract, I said directly. What? Have you come around? Shen Changfeng smiled. I told you. A smart girl like you wouldn't do anything foolish. I have indeed come around, I nodded, but I have a few conditions. What conditions? First, I can marry your brother according to the marriage contract, but until he fully recovers, this contract will not take effect. Second, I must complete my university studies, and no one is allowed to interfere during this period. Third, if your brother engages in any misconduct, I have the right to terminate the engagement. Shen Changfeng listened and nodded. These conditions are all reasonable. I can agree. That's good. I let out a sigh of relief. Actually, I'm not an unreasonable person either. The Shen family comes from a long line of military service. Marrying into their family is truly an honor for me, seeing how sensible I was. Shen Changfeng seemed quite pleased. In that case, we can consider it an agreement, he said. However, I changed the subject. I have a question. What question? Was your brother's car accident really an accident? I asked casually. Shen Changfeng's expression changed. Why are you asking this? Nothing. Just curious, I said. After all, we're going to be family soon, so I should know a bit more about the situation. Shen Changfeng was silent for a moment, then said, it was indeed not an accident. What happened then? I pressed. Someone wanted to harm him. Shen Changfeng's voice was cold. As for who exactly, we're still investigating. Could it be a revenge killing? I asked. Did your brother offend anyone in the military? It's not a revenge killing. Shen Changfeng shook his head. It's more like, he paused and didn't continue. More like what? I asked curiously. Nothing. Shen Changfeng glanced at me. You don't need to worry about these things. But I could tell from his expression that he knew the truth, and this truth made him very uneasy. By the way, there's another question. I continued fishing for information. Will your brother have any after effects after waking up? It shouldn't be, Shen Changfeng said. The doctor said there's no damage to his brain, he's just temporarily unconscious. After waking up, he should be just like a normal person. That's good. I pretended to breathe a sigh of relief. I was worried he might have some issues. Don't worry, aside from not being able to move right now, my brother is completely normal, Shen Changfeng said. Even now, he is sometimes conscious, just unable to express himself. This sentence confirmed my suspicion. Shen Changfeng was indeed pretending to be unconscious. That's really great, I said happily. Now I can rest assured. By the way, can I go see him? Since we're going to be husband and wife, we should work on building some affection. Of course you can. Shen Changfeng stood up. I'll take you there. When we arrived at room 309, Shen Changfeng was still lying there, motionless, but I noticed that when we entered, his eyelids twitched slightly. Brother Changfeng, I've come to see you again, I said gently. Sitting down by the bedside, I just had a long talk with Changfeng, and we've reached an agreement. When you wake up, we'll get married. I'll take good care of you. Shen Changfeng nodded with satisfaction nearby. But the next words made his expression change drastically. However, I suddenly lowered my voice. I have a secret to tell you. I leaned close to Shen Changfeng's ear and whispered, actually, I know who hit you. Shen Changfeng's breathing halted for an instant. It was your younger brother, Shen Changfeng. I continued, in order to seize the family fortune, he hired someone to hit you with a car, and now, under the pretense of taking care of you, he's trying to transfer your assets into his name. Although this was only my speculation, judging from Shen Changfeng's reaction earlier, it was probably not far from the truth. Sure enough, Shen Changfeng's body began to tremble slightly. You don't believe me, I continued. Then think carefully about what happened on the day of the accident. Was it Changfeng who asked you to go out? Did he know which route you would take? Shen Changfeng's trembling became increasingly noticeable. Brother Changfeng, what are you thinking about? Shen Changfeng asked from the side. Why are you sweating so much? Maybe it's a bit hot. I pretended to be concerned and said, I'll go open a window, taking the opportunity to open the window. I whispered another sentence into Shen Changfeng's ear. If you want revenge, give me a signal. For example, move a finger. Then I returned to the bedside and naturally took his hand. A few seconds later, I felt his index finger twitch slightly. I was secretly delighted. It seems I guessed right. Shen Changfeng is the one who harmed him, and Shen Changfeng has already started to suspect. Brother Changfeng, you need to get better soon, I said loudly. I will come to accompany you every day. We have so much to talk about. Shen Changfeng watched our intimate interaction with satisfaction. It seems you two look very much like a married couple. Yes, I said with a smile. I feel that Brother Changfeng and I are truly fated to be together. That's good, Shen Changfeng said. In a few days, I'll arrange for you two to officially get engaged. So soon, I pretended to be surprised. Yes, let's settle this before you go off to college, Shen Changfeng said. That way everyone can feel at ease. Alright then, I reluctantly agreed. After leaving the hospital, I was in a good mood. The plan was going smoothly. Now Shen Changfeng has started to suspect Shen Changfeng. Next, what I need to do is deepen this suspicion. Let the brothers kill each other. That way, I can reap the benefits without lifting a finger. 6. For the next few days, I went to the hospital every day to visit Shen Changfeng. Each time I went, I brought some surprises for him. For example, I told him about some of Shen Changfeng's recent behavior. Brother Changfeng, I've noticed that Changfeng has been acting very strangely lately, I said, pretending to be worried. Yesterday, I saw him secretly going through your belongings, as if he was looking for something. Also, he often makes phone calls to some suspicious people, speaking in a very low voice as if he doesn't want others to hear. With every statement I made, I could sense Shen Changfeng's emotional fluctuations. His breathing would become rapid, and his fingers would tremble slightly. Sometimes, I could even see tears welling up in the corners of his eyes. Clearly, he had completely believed what I said. At the same time, I was also intentionally or unintentionally revealing some intelligence to Shen Changfeng. Changfeng, I feel like Changfeng Ji seems to have something on his mind, I said. What's on his mind? Shen Changfeng asked. I'm not too sure either, but every time I mention the car accident, he gets very agitated, I said, and I feel like he seems very angry at someone. Anger? Towards whom? Shen Changfeng's voice sounded a bit tense. I don't know, I shook my head, but I think he might remember some details from when the accident happened. Impossible, Shen Changfeng quickly denied. The doctor said he has no memory of that period. Really? I said doubtfully, but I feel like he seems to genuinely remember something. For example, yesterday, I unintentionally mentioned a name, and his reaction was particularly strong. What name? Shen Changfeng asked nervously. I pretended to think. It seems like it was called Chen something or other. Chen Qiong, Shen Changfeng blurted out. Yes, it's Chen Qiong. I pretended to have a sudden realization. How do you know that name? Shen Changfeng realized he had let something slip, and his face turned pale. Nothing. Maybe I misheard, he stammered, but I had already obtained the information I wanted. Chen Qiong is probably the person Shen Changfeng hired to hit Shen Changfeng. Oh, then I might have remembered it wrong. I pretended not to care. But I could tell that Shen Changfeng was starting to panic. He was worried that Shen Changfeng had really regained his memory and would tell the truth. Sure enough, from that day on, Shen Changfeng's behavior became very strange. He started coming to the hospital frequently, and he would always stay alone in the ward. No one knew what he was doing. Sometimes when I went to see Shen Changfeng, I would notice new injuries on his face. Brother Changfeng, how did you get hurt on your face? I asked, pretending to be concerned. Of course, Shen Changfeng would not answer, but I deliberately said loudly, did someone hit you? Move your finger to tell me. Sure enough, he slightly moved his index finger. My God, who could be so cruel? I said angrily. How dare they hit a patient? Then I leaned close to his ear and whispered softly, is it Shen Changfeng? This time, his reaction was even more obvious. His entire body was trembling slightly. It seems Shen Changfeng has already started to take action against him. This is exactly the outcome I wanted. Over the next few days, I began to implement the next step of the plan. I found an opportunity to secretly install a small recording device in Shen Changfeng's hospital room. This was something I asked Li Hua to get for me. It's very discreet and not easily detected. Then I started deliberately provoking Shen Changfeng. Changfeng, I think something is off with Brother Changfeng's condition, I said. What's off? Shen Changfeng asked warily. I feel like he's already awake, just pretending to be unconscious, I said directly. Shen Changfeng's face changed dramatically. What nonsense are you talking about? I'm not talking nonsense, I said seriously. Yesterday, I tested him by asking about things only he would know, and he responded to all of them. What things? Shen Changfeng asked nervously. For example, the exact time and specific location of the car accident, I said, and this person Chen Qiong. Upon hearing the name Chen Qiong, Shen Changfeng completely panicked. Why are you asking about these things? His voice trembled. Nothing. I just want to understand the situation at that time, I said, pretending to be innocent. After all, we're going to be family soon. What exactly happened that day? Why would someone hit Brother Changfeng? Shen Changfeng remained silent for a long time, then said, Don't ask about this matter anymore. Why? I pressed further. Is there something hidden? There's no hidden story. Shen Changfeng was somewhat agitated. It was an accident, a pure accident. But didn't you say earlier that someone intentionally hit him? I said doubtfully. Shen Changfeng realized he had contradicted himself and became even more flustered. I misspoke. It was an accident, an accident. Watching his flustered appearance, I secretly laughed to myself. All right then. Since it was an accident, I won't ask further, I said, but I'm still worried about Brother Changfeng's safety. Worried about what? What if the person who hit him still wants to harm him? I said. The hospital's security isn't very strict either. No, it won't, Shen Changfeng said quickly. The hospital is very safe. That's good. I pretended to breathe a sigh of relief. I thought there might be danger. By the way, Changfeng, I want to ask you something. What was it? If Brother Changfeng really woke up but is pretending to still be in a coma, why do you think that is? This question completely flustered Shen Changfeng. He hemmed and hawed for a long time, unable to speak. Could it be because he knows something he shouldn't? I continued to press, so he doesn't dare to wake up. No, Shen Changfeng stammered. That's good, I smiled. I was just asking casually. From that day on, Shen Changfeng became even more anxious. He started visiting the ward frequently, and each time he would have a conversation alone with Shen Changfeng. Although Shen Changfeng wouldn't respond, Shen Changfeng would still talk to himself for a long time. And the recording device I installed faithfully captured all of this. A few days later, I retrieved the recording device and heard some very valuable content. Bro, are you awake or not? Shen Changfeng's voice was very tense. If you're awake, give me a signal. I'm your brother. I won't harm you. About the car accident. I know you might have your suspicions, but it really has nothing to do with me. Chen Qiong acted on his own initiative. I never expected him to go this far. I only wanted you to suffer minor injuries and rest at home for a while. That way, I could help you handle the company affairs. I really didn't mean to harm you. Hearing these words, my heart was filled with great joy. Shen Changfeng has finally admitted it. Although he claimed he didn't intend to harm Shen Changfeng seriously and only wanted to inflict minor injuries, this is already enough. This constitutes intentional harm, or even attempted murder, with this recording. I now have leverage over Shen Changfeng, but I'm not in a hurry to use it. I'll wait for a better opportunity. A few days later, the Shen family formally came to propose marriage. Besides Shen Changfeng, the visitors also included his parents, Shen Guoqiang and Li Xiuyun. They brought many gifts and were very polite. Wanwan, we heard from Changfeng that you've agreed to this marriage, and our whole family is overjoyed, Li Xiuyun said with a smile. Although Changfeng isn't in the best condition right now, we believe he will definitely recover. By then, you two will be officially married. Shen Guoqiang also nodded in agreement. Our Shen family will definitely not treat you unfairly. Not only will we support you through college, but we will also arrange a good job for you after graduation, and in the future, Changfeng's assets will all belong to you two as a couple. Hearing the word property, I noticed Shen Changfeng's expression change slightly. It seems he is very dissatisfied with this arrangement. Thank you, uncle and aunt, I said politely. I will definitely take good care of Brother Changfeng. Then it's settled, Shen Guoqiang concluded. Once Wanwan graduates from university, we will hold the wedding, but before that, we need to get engaged first. To make it official, the engagement ceremony is scheduled for a week later. The venue is set at the Military District Auditorium, and many relatives and friends will be invited to attend. Changfeng will also be there then, Li Shoyun said. Although he can't move right now, this is his lifelong event, and he must witness it. Hearing this, my heart stirred. This engagement ceremony might just be the most crucial step in my plan. If I can reveal the truth in front of so many people, the impact is bound to be stunning. All right, I have no objections, I agreed with a smile. After the Shun family left, I immediately began preparing the final plan. First, I need to ensure that Shun Changfeng can wake up during the engagement ceremony. This requires some special drug stimulation. I asked Li Hua for help and obtained some stimulants from his father's friend. This drug can briefly awaken a comatose person without causing permanent harm. Second, I need to prepare the evidence. In addition to the recording, I need to gather more evidence of Shun Changfeng's crimes. Finally, I need to arrange an escape plan. If the plan fails, I must have a backup plan. The night before the engagement ceremony, I went to the hospital to see Shun Changfeng for the last time. Brother Changfeng, tomorrow is our engagement ceremony, I said softly. Are you happy? Shun Changfeng, of course, did not respond. But I could sense the change in his emotions. Actually, I have a secret to tell you. I leaned close to his ear and said, there will be a big surprise at tomorrow's engagement ceremony. Your enemy will get the punishment they deserve, and our engagement will be completely called off. Do you want to see all of this? If so, cooperate with me tomorrow. After saying that, I placed a small pill in his palm. This is a stimulant, take it at the critical moment. And you'll briefly regain consciousness. Remember, you must take it only when I give you the signal. Timing is important. Shun Changfeng's fingers twitched slightly, indicating understanding, leaving the hospital. I took a deep breath of the night air. Tomorrow will be the moment of the decisive battle. Regardless of success or failure, I must fight for my own freedom. In this lifetime, I will never be anyone's puppet again. 7. On the day of the engagement ceremony, the military auditorium was lavishly decorated. Red banners and vibrant flowers filled the space, creating an atmosphere of celebration everywhere. Many people came to attend the ceremony, besides the relatives and friends of the Shun family. There were also many military leaders. I was wearing a white dress and appeared very happy on the surface, but inside, I felt completely calm. Wanwan, you look so beautiful, Li Shoyun said, holding my hand. Changfeng would be very happy if he could see you. Thank you, auntie, I replied with a smile. Shun Changfeng was wheeled to the scene in a wheelchair. He still appeared unconscious, but I knew he could hear everything. Distinguished guests. Welcome to the engagement ceremony of my son Shun Changfeng and comrade Lin Wanwan. Shun Guoqiang stood on the stage and spoke in a loud, clear voice. Although Changfeng is in a special situation now, we believe love can create miracles. Wanwan is willing to stand by him through thick and thin. This spirit is worth learning from by all of us. Warm applause erupted from the audience. Now, please welcome the newlyweds to the stage, the host announced. Shun Changfeng and I pushed Shun Changfeng's wheelchair onto the stage together. According to the process, the next step should be the exchange of rings. But at that moment, I suddenly spoke up, uncles and aunts, before the rings are exchanged, I would like to say a few words. Shun Guoqiang was taken aback for a moment, but then nodded and said, all right, go ahead. I took the microphone and looked around at everyone in the audience. I'm very happy to be engaged to Brother Changfeng today. But at this important moment, I must speak some truths. The people in the audience began to whisper, not understanding what I was about to say. Shun Changfeng's face turned very pale, as he realized something might go wrong. Brother Changfeng's car accident was not an accident, I said loudly. This sentence exploded like a bomb among the crowd. What? Not an accident? What's happening? The audience was in chaos. Shun Guoqiang hurriedly stopped her. Wanwan, don't talk nonsense. I'm not talking nonsense, I said calmly. I have evidence. As I spoke, I took out a recording device. This recorded the true culprit's confession. The real culprit. Who is it? Someone shouted loudly. I looked at Shen Changfeng standing beside me. His face had already turned as pale as paper. "It's Shen Changfeng," I said, pointing at him. He hired someone to crash into his own brother. This statement completely ignited the scene. Impossible. How could it be him? They are brothers. Shen Changfeng hurriedly denied. "You're talking nonsense. How could I possibly harm my brother? Is that so?" I sneered and pressed the play button. The voice of Shen Changfeng came from the recording device. "About the car accident, I know you might have your suspicions, but it really has nothing to do with me. Chen Qiong acted on his own initiative. I never expected him to go this far. I only wanted you to suffer minor injuries and rest at home for a while. That way, I could help you handle the company affairs." Upon hearing these words, the entire room erupted in an uproar. Shen Guoqiang trembled with rage. "Changfeng, what is the meaning of this?" Shen Changfeng attempted to defend himself. This is fabricated. She's framing me." "Fabricated," I sneered. "Then let me play you some more recordings." I played a few more recordings, all of which were Shen Changfeng's confessions in the hospital room. "The evidence is conclusive and undeniable, you beast." Shen Guoqiang angrily slapped Shen Changfeng across the face. "How could you do such a thing?" "Dad, I really didn't mean to harm my brother," Shen Changfeng cried. "I just wanted to." "What are you thinking? Trying to seize the family property?" Li Xiuyun was also trembling with anger. "Changfeng is your own brother." The crowd below grew even more agitated. How terrifying, a brother resorting to such vicious means. How can someone like this be fit to be a soldier? They must be severely punished. Seeing the situation spiral out of control, I knew the time was ripe. I walked over to Shen Changfeng's wheelchair and gently patted his hand. This was our prearranged signal. A few seconds later, Shen Changfeng slowly opened his eyes. "Oh my God, Changfeng is awake. He's awake. He's really awake." The entire venue erupted in excitement once again. Shen Changfeng slowly sat up, his movements somewhat stiff, but he was indeed awake. He looked at Shen Changfeng, his eyes filled with anger and disappointment. "Shen Changfeng," he spoke, his voice somewhat hoarse but clear. "I never expected that the one who harmed me would be you. Brother, brother." Shen Changfeng knelt on the ground, crying uncontrollably. "I really didn't mean to harm you. You didn't mean to harm me," Shen Changfeng sneered. "Then why did you hire Chen Qiong to hit me?" I just wanted you to get injured so I could take over the company." Shen Changfeng sobbed. "I owe a lot of gambling debts and desperately need money. So you wanted my life," Shen Changfeng said angrily. "I almost died. Do you know that? I know I was wrong. I really know I was wrong." Shen Changfeng kowtowed desperately. "Brother, please forgive me." But Shen Changfeng no longer wanted to hear his excuses. He looked at the crowd below and said loudly, "Everyone, I, Shen Changfeng, hereby swear that from this day forward, I sever all brotherly ties with Shen Changfeng. His actions have nothing to do with my Shen family." Shen Guoqiang also angrily declared, "Shen Changfeng, from today onward, you are no longer a member of the Shen family. I'm calling the police to arrest you right now." Seeing the Shen family completely split apart, I knew my plan had succeeded, but there was still one final step. I walked up to the microphone and said loudly, "Everyone, there's one more thing I must clarify. My engagement with Shen Changfeng was forced upon me. Now that brother Changfeng has regained consciousness, I want to hear his true thoughts." I looked at Shen Changfeng. "Brother Changfeng, would you like to marry me?" Shen Changfeng remained silent for a moment, then shook his head. "Wanwan, you're a good girl, but we're not suitable for each other. You're still young, you should have your own choices. I cannot bind your entire life because of a marriage contract." Hearing this, I was overjoyed. Finally, I was free from this nightmare of a marriage contract. "Very well, our engagement is officially dissolved," I announced loudly. The crowd below began to murmur, with some in support and others in opposition. But I no longer cared. What mattered was that I was free. Just then, the police arrived at the scene. It turns out Shen Guoqiang really called the police. "Shen Changfeng, you are under arrest." The police officer presented the arrest warrant. "You are suspected of intentional assault and hiring someone to commit murder." Watching Shen Changfeng being taken away, a sense of satisfaction surged within me. The revenge from my past life has finally been exacted. The ceremony ended in chaos. The crowd gradually dispersed, leaving only me and Shen Changfeng. "Thank you," Shen Changfeng said, looking at me. "If it weren't for you, I might never have known the truth. No need to thank me." I said calmly, "I was just fighting for my own freedom." "You really don't hate me?" Shen Changfeng asked. "After all, I did deceive you. What's the use of hating?" I retorted, "Let bygones be bygones. From now on, we'll each go our own way and have nothing to do with each other." Shen Changfeng nodded. "Fine, you're still young. You should have a better future. Wishing you a smooth academic journey at Peking University." I turned to leave, but Shen Changfeng called out to me again, "Wanwan. There's something I must say." I turned back to look at him. "What did you mean by previous life just now?" he asked in confusion. "You seem to have mentioned it at the hospital that day too." I was taken aback for a moment, then laughed. "That was just a metaphor. It means if I really married you, life would definitely be miserable. It's as if I owed you a debt in my past life." Shen Changfeng nodded with a vague understanding. I didn't explain further and walked straight out of the auditorium. Stepping out of the military compound, I took a deep breath of fresh air. Finally, I had completely escaped the nightmare of my previous life. In this life, I will live for myself. 8. Free from the constraints of the engagement, I could finally focus on preparing for college. The admission letter from Peking University had arrived long ago. The computer science department, exactly the major I wanted. During this period of waiting for the start of the semester, I decided to earn some money first. I knew that in the early 1990s, there were plenty of opportunities to make money, for example, stocks, real estate, and some emerging businesses. But now, the simplest way is to engage in small businesses by leveraging information asymmetry. I found Li Hua and discussed cooperation with him. "Brother Hua, I want to start a small business. Are you interested?" I said. "What business?" Li Hua asked curiously. "Reselling some high-demand goods," I said, "like electronics, imported products, and such." In this era, electronic products were still quite scarce and expensive. If we could source goods from places like Shenzhen and transport them to sell in the inland areas, the profits would be substantial. "That's a good idea," Li Hua nodded, "but we need startup funds. I'll figure out the money issue," I said. "Although I don't have much money on hand, I can think of other ways. For example, I know some stock fluctuations. Although the stock market is not yet perfect, there are already some stocks being traded." I took the only $1,000 I had with me and went to the securities exchange. "I want to buy stocks," I said to the staff. "Little classmate, are you sure?" The staff member looked at me doubtfully. "Stocks carry a lot of risk, I'm sure." I nodded. I selected a few stocks that I knew would rise and bought them all. Then it was a matter of waiting. Sure enough, in less than a month, all these stocks had risen significantly. I sold in time and made nearly 3,000 yuan. Combined with the money I had before, I now have over 4,000 yuan in startup capital. This was already a considerable amount of money in 1990. Next, Li Hua and I started our small business. We first went to Shenzhen to purchase goods, buying some electronic watches, calculators, and tape recorders. Then we brought them back to sell locally. Due to information asymmetry, the prices of these goods were much higher locally than in Shenzhen. Our profits were very substantial. On our first business deal, we made over $2,000. "Wanwan, you're amazing," Li Hua said excitedly. "This business is so profitable." "This is just the beginning," I said calmly. Over the next 2 months, we conducted several more business deals. Every time, I made a killing. By the time college started, I had already saved up over 20,000 yuan. In 1990, that was definitely a huge sum of money. "Wanwan, aren't you going to continue doing business?" Li Hua asked. "I'm not doing it for now," I said. "I'm going to college." "What about this business then? You keep running it," I said. "I'll provide you with some supply information. Consider me a partner, and we'll split the profits 50-50. Li Hua happily agreed. This way, even while I'm attending university in Beijing, I'll have a stable source of income. Before leaving, I went to take one last look at the city that raised me. Although I've experienced many unpleasant things, this is still my hometown after all. I also went to see Xue Suihua and her family. I heard that ever since I turned down that marriage proposal, the Shun family has stopped contacting them. Shwed Suehua lost the 50,000 yuan bride price and was so angry that she fell seriously ill. She's still lying in the hospital, and they say her condition isn't very good. Shwed Jianhua remained single because his girlfriend left him when he couldn't afford to get married. Shue Xiaoye also couldn't attend a good school due to lack of money. Seeing their outcomes, I don't feel a shred of sympathy in my heart. These were all their own choices. If they had treated me better back then, perhaps the outcome would have been different. But there are no ifs. In September 1990, I boarded the train to Beijing with my luggage and dreams. As the train slowly started moving, I looked out the window at the gradually receding city, my heart filled with anticipation. A new life is about to begin. On the train, I met several students who were also heading to Peking University. They were all outstanding, coming from all over the country. Which department are you in? A male classmate asked me. Computer science, I replied. Wow. Computer science is really impressive, a female classmate said enviously. I heard it's very difficult to study. It's not too bad, I smiled. For me, computer science really isn't difficult. After all, I have over 20 years of advanced experience. Upon arriving in Beijing, I was deeply impressed by this ancient yet modern city. Although Beijing at that time was not as prosperous as it would later become, it already displayed the aura of a major metropolis. The campus of Peking University was even more breathtakingly beautiful. The ancient architecture, dense trees, and that strong academic atmosphere. This is where my dream begins, I silently said in my heart. The dormitory is a 4-person room, and my roommates are from Shanghai, Guangzhou, and Lebanon. They are all very friendly, and we quickly became familiar with each other. Wanwan, why did you choose computer science as your major? Asked Xiaoyu, my roommate from Shanghai. There are very few girls in this field. I think this major has a promising future. I said, a promising future. Xiaoxue, my roommate from Guangzhou, asked doubtfully. Computers aren't very widespread yet. They will be, I said confidently, and very soon. My roommates all think I'm very confident, but they don't know that I actually have the superpower of foreseeing the future. On the first day of school, we attended the freshman orientation ceremony. The principal gave a speech on stage, recounting the history and traditions of Peking University. Students, you are the hope of the nation and the future of our people, the principal said passionately. I hope that during your 4 years at Peking University, you will not only acquire knowledge but also cultivate the right outlook on life and values. Warm applause erupted from the audience. I also joined in the applause, but in my heart, I was contemplating my own plans. I need to make good use of my 4 years of university. Not only do I need to master my professional knowledge, but I also need to build connections and broaden my horizons. More importantly, I need to prepare for my future career. I know that in the near future, China will undergo tremendous changes. The internet will rise, the economy will take off, and various opportunities will emerge one after another. And what I need to do is seize these opportunities and become a pioneer of the times. In the first computer class, the professor taught basic programming concepts. For the other students, this was all new knowledge. But for me, it was child's play. Does anyone have any questions? The professor asked. I raised my hand. Professor, I have a question. You said it. Currently, computers are mainly used for scientific calculations, but I think there might be more applications in the future, such as office work, entertainment, communication, and so on. What do you think about this development direction? The professor was taken aback for a moment, then smiled. This idea is very interesting. Indeed, the application prospects of computers are limitless, but it's still too early. The technology hasn't reached that level yet. Perhaps it will take several decades to achieve. Several decades. I chuckled to myself. If he knew that in just over a decade, computers would become a necessity in every household, I wonder what expression he would have. After class, a few classmates gathered around. Wanwan, you have a deep understanding of computers. Yeah, have you studied them before? No, I'm just interested, I said. I want to read more related books. Can you recommend a few books? Would like to learn more too. I recommended several computer books that were considered advanced for that era. Although they were still quite primitive compared to later technologies, they were considered cutting edge in 1990. And so, my college life began, attending classes during the day, studying on my own at night. I not only had to learn the material from class, but also had to teach myself some more advanced technologies, such as networking technology, database technology, software engineering, and so on. These are not yet widespread now, but I know they will be hot topics in the future. At the same time, I haven't forgotten to continue doing business. I kept in touch with Li Hua, guiding him to continue running our small company. The business grew larger and larger, and the profits became increasingly substantial. By the end of my freshman year, my savings had already reached 100,000 yuan. In the early 1990s, this was absolutely an astronomical figure. Wanwan, you're really amazing. My roommates were all envious. You're both a good student and know how to make money. This is just small change. I said lightly, the real opportunities are still ahead. Indeed, what I am doing now is just accumulating initial capital. The truly big opportunities won't emerge until the mid to late 1990s. By then, I will leverage these accumulated resources to seize the opportunities of the era and achieve true financial freedom. But for now, I need to keep working hard, continue learning, and keep building up my foundation, because I know that opportunities always favor the prepared mind. 9. After the start of my sophomore year, I met someone who changed the course of my life. His name was Professor Zhong, a young new teacher in our department who had just returned from studying in the United States. Professor Zhong brought with him many advanced ideas and technologies, which broadened my horizons. Classmates, today I want to discuss a concept with you. The Internet, Professor Zhong said in class. What is the Internet? Simply put, it connects computers from all over the world to achieve information sharing. The students in the audience were all confused and didn't understand this concept, but in my heart, I was extremely excited. Finally, someone mentioned the Internet. Although it's still early, this is indeed the most important technological revolution of the future. After class, I took the initiative to find Professor Zhong. Professor, I'm very interested in the Internet you just mentioned. I said, oh, are you knowledgeable about this field? Professor Zhong was somewhat surprised. I know a little. I said, I believe this technology will completely transform human lifestyles. Excellent, Professor Zhong said excitedly. Very few students can grasp the importance of the Internet. Would you like to participate in my research project? Of course I'm willing, I agreed without hesitation, and so, I became Professor Zhong's research assistant. In his laboratory, I was exposed to the most advanced network technology. Although the Internet was still primitive back then, slow and with limited functions, I could sense its enormous potential. Lin, you have a high level of talent. Professor Zhong praised me. You grasp many concepts as soon as they're explained. Moreover, your ideas are very unique. And you often come up with some very valuable suggestions. Indeed, with my understanding of the future, I can accurately determine which technological directions are correct. This made Professor Zhong look at me in a new light. Professor, I have a question for you. One day, I said to Professor Zhong, what is it? When do you think the Internet will become common in ordinary households? Professor Zhong thought for a moment. It's hard to say. Technological development takes time. And the costs are also high. I estimate it will take at least 20 or 30 years. 20 or 30 years, I chuckled to myself. In reality, it would take less than 10 years. If it truly becomes widespread, what changes will it bring? I continued to ask. Changes. Professor Zhong's eyes sparkled. It will be one of the greatest transformations in human history. People can shop at home, work, entertain themselves, and access information from all over the world. Business models will be completely transformed. Education models will be completely transformed, and social interactions will be completely transformed. There might even be a brand new virtual world. Hearing these words, I became even more convinced of my judgment. The Internet is indeed the biggest opportunity of the future. I must prepare in advance. In addition to learning technology in the lab, I have also started paying attention to business opportunities. I know that true wealth does not come from working for others, but from starting a business, and the internet will provide countless entrepreneurial opportunities, but the timing is not yet right. I need to continue accumulating technology and capital. Meanwhile, my business with Li Hua is also developing rapidly. We are no longer limited to reselling electronic products, but have started to get involved in real estate. In the early 1990s, the real estate market had just started, and prices were still very cheap, but I knew that with economic development, housing prices would rise significantly. Brother Hua, let's buy a few apartments, I suggested. Buy a house? What for? Li Hua didn't understand. Investment, I said. Housing prices will rise. Will they rise? Li Hua was half convinced, half doubtful. Housing prices are so cheap now, will they really go up? Trust me, I said with certainty. Eventually, Li Hua was persuaded by me. We used our accumulated funds to buy 3 apartments in Beijing. All of them were located near the second ring road, in great locations, but at very cheap prices. At the time, many people thought we were crazy to spend so much money on buying property, but I know. This is the most correct investment of our lives. In my junior year, I began preparing my own business plan. What I wanted to do was a software company, specializing in developing web application software. Although not many people use the internet now, I believe this market will soon explode. You're starting a business, my roommate Xiaoyu asked in surprise, starting a business before even graduating. Yes, I nodded. I think the timing is right, but as a girl, starting a business is so difficult. Xiaoyu said with concern. Difficulties are inevitable, I said, but opportunities are even rarer. If you wait until after graduation to start a business, you might miss the best opportunity. Indeed, I know that in the mid-1990s, China's internet will experience its first wave of development. At that time, many opportunities will emerge, but competition will also be intense. If I start preparing now, I'll be able to seize the initiative when that time comes. I found Professor Zhong and told him about my idea, starting a business. Professor Zhong was very surprised. You're still a student, Professor. I want to collaborate with you. I said, I'll provide the funding, and you can offer technical guidance. Let's develop some internet software products together. Professor Zhong thought for a long time and finally agreed. All right, anyway, my research at the university also needs funding support, he said. Just like that, my first company was established. The company was very small, with just Professor Zhong and me, along with a few part-time students. We rented a small office and embarked on the journey of starting a business. The company's first product was a simple email system. Although its features were quite basic, it was considered quite advanced for that era. We marketed the product to some businesses, and the response was quite positive. Although I don't earn much money, this proves that my judgment was correct. There is indeed market demand for web applications. Wanwan, you're truly amazing, Professor Zhong said admiringly. To have such business acumen at such a young age, I believe you will definitely become a successful entrepreneur in the future. Thank you for the compliment, Professor, I said. But this is only the beginning. Indeed, this is only the beginning. I know that the real opportunities are still ahead. When the internet becomes truly widespread, I will launch more and better products. By then, I will not only lead in technology but also innovate in business models. I want to build an internet business empire. As graduation approached in my senior year, I faced a choice. Should I continue with graduate studies or fully commit to entrepreneurship? Wanwan, with such excellent grades, you should continue your studies. My advisor suggested I pursue graduate school. With your abilities, you will surely become an outstanding researcher in the future. But I had already made my decision. Teacher, I want to start a business, I said. Starting a business is very risky, and you're still young. It would be better to gain some experience first. My mentor advised me. Teacher, I think now is the best time. I insisted. If I miss this opportunity, I might never get another one like it. In the end, I chose to start my own business. On the day of the graduation ceremony, I looked at my classmates around me and felt a surge of emotions. Most of them would go on to work in state-owned enterprises or government agencies, leading stable but ordinary lives. As for me, I chose a path full of risks but also brimming with opportunities. Wanwan, are you really sure about this? My roommates asked with reluctance. Decided. I nodded. This is my dream. Then we support you, Xiaoyu said, when you make it big in the future. Don't forget about us. I definitely won't forget, I said with a smile. After bidding farewell to university life, I threw myself wholeheartedly into starting my own business. The company moved to a larger office, and the number of employees increased to over a dozen. We developed more web software products, and the number of clients continued to grow. More importantly, I began to focus on a new business opportunity, e-commerce. I knew that in the near future, people would purchase goods online. This will completely transform the traditional business model, and what I need to do is capture this market. By the end of 1994, my company had already gained some recognition. Although the scale was still small, it had already established a certain influence in the field of network software. More importantly, I have accumulated a wealth of technology and talent. President Lin, you are truly amazing. The employees all admired me to achieve such success with the company at such a young age. This is not enough, I said. Our goal is to become the largest internet company in China. The employees were all inspired by my ambition. They believe that by following me, they can surely create miracles. And I, too, trust my own judgment, with foresight into the future. I will surely seize the opportunity in the upcoming internet wave and become a trailblazer of the era. In this lifetime, I will not only live for myself but also live with brilliance and value. I want to prove that a woman can also dominate in the business world and become a legend. 10. In 1995, just as I had predicted, China's internet began to develop rapidly. More and more businesses started paying attention to network technology, and more individuals began using computers. My company also entered a period of rapid development. Boss Lin, we've secured 3 major projects. The technical director excitedly rushed into my office. Which 3? I asked. One is a banking network system. Another is a government office automation project. And the third is a telecommunications database project. The total amount exceeds 5 million. 5 million. In 1995, this was absolutely an astonishing figure. Our company finally transformed from a small workshop into a genuine enterprise. Excellent, I said. Immediately form a project team, and we must ensure both quality and quantity are met. Yes, watching the busy figures of the employees, my heart was filled with a sense of accomplishment. From an ordinary college student to the current company CEO, it only took me 5 years. But this is far from enough. I know that the real opportunities are still ahead. The development of the internet has only just begun. In the coming years, there will be more and greater opportunities. Search engines, e-commerce, social networks, each one is a market worth hundreds of billions or even trillions, and what I need to do is seize these opportunities. Professor Zhong, what do you think we should do next? I asked my partner. Professor Zhong is now the company's technical director. Although he still works part-time at the university, he spends most of his time at the company. I think we should focus on network infrastructure construction. He said, many enterprises now need to build their own network systems. And this market is huge. No, I shook my head. Infrastructure construction will be highly competitive, and the technical barriers are not high. We should develop some more forward-looking products, for instance, online shopping systems, information retrieval systems, and online communication tools. I said, these might not seem very useful now, but they will definitely become mainstream in the future. Professor Zhong looked somewhat puzzled. Is there a market for these products now? Not now, but we need to prepare for the future. I said, technological development takes time. If we wait until the market matures, it will be too late to start. In the end, I convinced Professor Zhong. We decided to pursue development in 2 directions simultaneously. On one hand, continue working on traditional network projects to maintain the company's normal operations. On the other hand, start developing new internet products to prepare for the future. I divided the company into 2 departments. The traditional network department, responsible for enterprise network projects. The Internet Products Department is responsible for developing new products. General Manager Lin, you truly have foresight. The employees all admired my decision, but they didn't know that my foresight actually came from foreseeing the future. The first project of the Internet Products Department was to develop a simple online shopping system. Although there are very few users now, I want to seize this market first. We are going to be China's first online shopping company, I said to the team. There may not be many customers now, but one day, everyone will buy goods online. By then, we will be the pioneers in this industry. Although the team members had some doubts, they still worked hard. 6 months later, our online shopping system was officially launched. This was one of the earliest e-commerce websites in China. Although there were few users and the transaction volume was small, it was a historic beginning. At the same time, I also began to focus on another important area, search engines. I knew that in the near future, information retrieval would become one of the most important applications on the Internet. Whoever masters search technology controls the gateway to the Internet. We need to develop a Chinese search engine, I said to the technical team. Search engine? The technical director asked doubtfully. There isn't much information online yet. Do we really need a search function? It will increase, I said confidently, and very soon, without a search engine by then, people won't be able to find the information they need at all. I invested a significant amount of capital and manpower into developing a Chinese search engine. This was considered a very risky decision at the time, because there were still very few Chinese web pages at that time. The value of search engines had not yet been demonstrated, but I knew it was a strategic investment. By the time Chinese web pages began to appear in large numbers, we would have the first mover advantage. By the end of 1996, our search engine was officially launched. It was one of the earliest Chinese search engines in China. Although its features were not yet fully developed, it was already able to basically meet users' needs. General Manager Lin, we now have 3 main products. Professor Zhong concluded: network system integration, e-commerce platforms, Chinese search engines. Yes, I nodded. All 3 directions are very important. Network integration is our foundational business, ensuring the company's normal operations. E-commerce and search engines are our future. Although they don't make money now, they will definitely become mainstream in the future. It turned out that my judgment was correct. By 1997, the Internet began to truly become widespread in China. More and more businesses established websites, and more individuals started using the Internet. Our search engine's user base began to grow rapidly. E-commerce platforms, though still niche, have gained some loyal users. More importantly, investors have started to pay attention to us, Mr. Lin. Several investment companies want to discuss cooperation with us. The secretary reported to me. Which ones? American venture capital firms and Hong Kong investment groups. How much do they want to invest? The initial discussion is about $10 million. $10 million. This was absolutely an astronomical figure in 1997. It shows that investors are very optimistic about our future. Arrange the meeting, I said, but remember, we're not in a hurry to raise funds. It's a seller's market now, and we need to choose the most suitable investors. After several rounds of negotiations, I ultimately chose an American venture capital firm. They not only provide funding but also bring advanced management experience and international resources. After the financing was completed, the company's development entered the fast lane. We expanded the team size, increased road investment, and improved product features. By 1998, we had become one of the leading companies in China's internet industry. The daily traffic of the search engine exceeded 1 million, and the e-commerce platform also began to generate profits. President Lin, you are truly amazing. The employees all admired me. Who would have thought a few years ago that the internet would develop so rapidly? Only you have such foresight to have laid out these products in advance. Hearing these compliments, I felt very calm inside, because I know this is only the beginning. The development speed of the internet will be faster than anyone can imagine. In the coming new century, there will be more opportunities and challenges, and I am fully prepared. In this lifetime, I have not only escaped a tragic fate but also become a successful figure in the business world. But my goal is not just to make money. I want to change this industry, change people's lifestyles, and even change the entire era. I want to become a true legend. Standing in front of the floor-to-ceiling window in the office, looking out at the bustling city of Beijing, my heart is filled with great ambitions. At 28 years old, I already possess wealth and status that most people cannot achieve in a lifetime, but this is far from enough. My journey has only just begun. From a poor girl forced to marry a vegetative patient to the current queen of the internet, it took me 8 years. During these 8 years, I have faced too many challenges and difficulties, but every difficulty has made me stronger, every challenge has made me grow faster. Now, I am no longer that little girl who could be manipulated by others. I am Lin Wanwan, a strong woman who has carved out a path in the male-dominated business world through my own efforts and intelligence. I have proven that women can not only stand on equal footing with men but can even do better. This is the life I want, free, independent, exciting, and meaningful. The meaning of rebirth is not for revenge, but for making new choices. Choose your own path, choose your own life, choose to become the person you want to be. Now, I have done it. Moreover, I will do even better. The end.